It was on Saturday, 27th November 1982, that I entered into the gates of Kiganjo and became a police officer of the lowest rank. I know many of you would want to know how I woke up that Saturday, 27th November 1982, as a civilian in Mudhurwa, land Mudhurwa. In the morning, I woke up as a civilian in land Mudhurwa. Then in the evening, I went to sleep in Kiganjo in a dormitory called Kakamega Barracks. I woke up as a civilian. Then going to sleep that day, I went to sleep as a police officer of the lowest rank. But then there are various stages that people take or people say that somebody has become somebody. When did you become an adult? Legally, they say that on the day you became 18 years old, then you became an adult. But the truth of the matter is, you started becoming an adult the day you were born. It is only that we agree that you become an adult on the day you are 18 years old. That being, many people consider somebody becomes a police officer on the graduation day. On the graduation day, Friday, 27th May 1983. If you happen to be in Kiganjo and you go to the commandant's office, you'll find that the official opening of the commandant's office was on Friday, 27th May 1983, on the day that I graduated, or as we call it, passing out day. But as I've just said, that you graduate, you become an adult slowly by slowly, and the passing out day is just the ceremonial day. Just like on 18th, when you get your identity card, that is when it is assumed that you are an adult. But you become, you grow, as you grow up, you become an adult slowly by slowly. So I can say, without any fear of contradiction, that my love for for police work started on May 1st, 1968, a few days before May 1st, 1968. Imagine loving a profession when you're in standard 1, term 2, the first month. There was a parade. Labor Day was done in Mombasa in 1968. The reviewing officer was President Jomo Kenyatta, and the parade commander was Assistant Superintendent of Police Japheth Lando, son of JI-TENGE. For reasons that I may never know, I'm not the only child. We are several. But he used to take his Volkswagen, take me to the parade place. He used to take me to the parade place. That was Mombasa Municipal Stadium. He does the parade while I'm looking. In the evening, he would buy a few beers. The beer used to be called City Lager. The beer used to be called City Lager. He would drink, and I would hold 2 sticks. the way a parade commander does. And then I would say, hey, ho, and he would really enjoy. Then he would give me a glass of beer. I don't know whether the glass of beer made me drunk, or because being a child, you know that anything, even if you are given water and you are told this is alcohol, if you're a child, you get drunk because you believe it is alcohol and you get drunk. That is when my love for police started. Standard 1, second term, first month, Labor Day. When I was in primary, my father used to give me papers which were marked police English literacy tests. English literacy tests. And when I used to, he would give me those papers and tell me to, we are all there. There was no addition. There was no, okay, there was only one addition. My youngest brother. But we were almost the same people. But my father would come with papers written police English literacy tests. He would give me when I was in primary, especially from standard 5 to standard 7. Those days, we used to end up in standard 7. There was no standard 8. From standard 1 to standard 4, I was schooling in very many schools and whatever. But in standard 5, we stayed at Madaraka Estate, and I was a student at Bagathi Road Primary School. So, when I was schooling at Bagathi Road Primary School, standard 5, my father would come with papers written police English literacy test. He used to give me those papers. He would tell me to answer in my own words. And I would answer the way I would answer. I don't know how I used to get marks or anything. He used to mark them, but never gave me the results. He just used to give me. I don't know why he chose me alone. Just like I did not know why he used to choose me alone in standard 1. So I would answer, and the only thing I used to see is, I used to see him laughing. I used to see him laughing. With my police knowledge now, I think he must have been sharing the exams with the police officers, telling them, angalia vile mtoto wangu ameandika vizuri kushinda nyinyi. That is my guess. There's no way we will ever know the truth. Then I joined Form 1 for my secondary education. When I joined secondary education in Form 1, Nairobi Technical, for the 4 years, my father used to come with the papers which were written police inspectorate exams. He would give me to read, and he would tell me the same. In primary, he used to test me on English literacy tests. But in Form 1 to Form 4, he used to give me exams that were written police inspectorate exams. And he would tell me to answer the way I would answer. I remember a very common question, which I remember the first time I saw it was when I was when I was in Form 1. The question went like this. You are the OCS in a certain police station. Your driver is not around, but an emergency comes. What would you do with the police Land Rover? I first answered that question when I was in Form 1. So that was 1976. Can you see me 8 years later, 1985, 9 years later, 1985, sitting for the same exam that I was first tested in Form 1. It was very easy. So, for those of you who thought that I passed my police inspectorate course, not inspectorate course, police inspectorate exams, which today they are called police law examination. For those of you who think that it had to do with my being a Form 6, well, that might be true, but how do you feel sitting in an exam with you being a Form 2, sitting for an exam with somebody who's a Form 6, answering questions that he first answered when he was in Form 1? That one, I thank my father for that. Now, that is how I used to be. And then when I joined Form 5, that is when I knew my father hated police work. He never wanted any of his children to get to join the police. So when I joined Form 5, he was pleased that I'm very educated and I would not join a police service which is for people with less education. He used to tell his juniors, watoto wangu hawezi ingia kwa hii kazi ya watu hawajasoma, not knowing that I really loved the police work. Now, that is my love for the police. Then I completed Form 6. We were in Garissa, and all police officers, all military officers in Garissa knew that I had a love for discipline services. When I talk about my love for discipline services, it can take days to talk. So, even in Garissa, General Mahmoud Mohammed wanted me to join the Air Force as an admin officer. That's a story for another day. So one day, it reached a day when they announced that they were employing direct entry inspectors or direct entry cadets to the police. My father had employed very many people. But funny thing about my father, his was reverse tribalism. His, I can call, was reverse tribalism. My father hated employing anybody from our home area into police service. We have so many senior police officers from where I come from, and these are the people who used to employ people. 95% of the people that my father employed in the police force are people not from home, not related and whatever. But the 5% of the people he employed, kina the late Sapiri, kina Charles Wamukota Kisiangani, those are people with strong Vayengeri blood. So, people in the it was very easy for him to employ anybody, but he employed only people who were non-relative and non-people from home. In an interview panel where he's seated, anybody from the nearer you came from where I come from, you'd really have a hard time in an interview panel that he was in. In other interview panels, you are happy when you see somebody from your home area. Now, I said that in 1982, there was cadet selection in the army before the August coup. Aden Duale's mother-in-law took me to the Garissa primary school field. I was not taken. That was before the coup attempt. But after the coup attempt, with General Mahmoud Mohammed being very, very powerful, in fact, the second most powerful person in Kenya then, apart from the president, he assured me that I was to join the military as a cadet officer. But then the police came earlier. When the police came earlier, the police came earlier. Now, when the police came earlier, they announced for cadet inspector. I talked to my father. It was written, I remember very well, it was written that it is for graduates only. And actually, the last line had been written, if you are not a graduate, don't attempt to apply. That is what was written. So we talked, I told the people told me, sasa graduate gani anaweza taka kuingia polisi? Hakuna graduate anaweza taka kuingia polisi. Then Superintendent Munene was my father's deputy. In the police, it is possible to have two officers of the same rank, one deputizing the other. Nowadays, it's a bit challenging, but in those days, you'd even find a police station with 6 inspectors, and one of the inspectors is the OCS, and other inspectors would salute you. They are saluting the office. So my father's deputy was a superintendent like him. One day we talked with Munene. He said, why can't you wait until when your father is there so that you introduce the topic? Because I told him my father is against the idea. Introduce him the topic and I'll tell you. I'll assist you. And your father will assist you to join the police as a cadet inspector. So one day I went there, I found my father with him. I talked what had taken me to the office. And after finishing that, I told my father in English, Dad, I think I should apply for that cadet inspector's interview. Then he answered me in vernacular. I'll talk it in Swahili for obvious reasons. He told me, ni siku gani uliwahi kanyaga university? Now, I kept quiet because I wanted the Superintendent Munene to intervene, but Superintendent Munene kept quiet. So in my awkward situation, I just walked out. Then a few days later, I went to Superintendent Munene's office and said, he said, no. When you people started talking vernacular, I could not comment on it. So we left that way. Shortly after, there was a course. There was a course for traffic officers, traffic investigation and whatever. They were modernizing the traffic department of the Kenya Police. So they wanted superintendents of police. So out of the 15 superintendents who attended that course, 10 were from traffic and 5 were from CID. My father was one of the 5 from the CID. So when he went to Kiganjo for the superintendent's course, he was shocked. He was shocked that whatever he found was very shocking for him. Out of the 25 people, cadet inspectors, out of the 25, 10 were from 4, 10 were from 6, and 5 were graduates. This shocked my father. I will repeat, out of 25 cadet inspectors, 10 were from 4s, 10 were from 6, and 5 were graduates. Who was the commandant Kiganjo? The commandant Kiganjo was Ngutu, Joseph Ngutu, Joseph Kimeu Ngutu. The deputy was Mudambi Kola, Joseph Mudambi Kola. People who not only are very close to my father as friends and colleagues, but people whom my father would just, that we have friends whom when you request for something, it's like information, isn't it? So my father approached them too and asked them how I can be co-opted into that class. They told him that college commandant and the deputy college commandant do recruits. But cadet selection is the work of the commissioner of police. So then my father said, but my son really wanted this job. Now what can I do? They advised him that what he should do is that there is a recruitment exercise that is going to happen. If I join the police, even if I'm a recruit, and this team completes, they completed their course in February 1983. So if your son is a recruit here, you can join. If your son is a recruit here, you can, it is easier for us to take him. We'll just tell the police headquarters that out of 25, we have 2 or 3 recruits here, so look for 23. That is when my father rang Superintendent Munene and told him, can you tell my son to go for recruitment in Nairobi on such and such a date? So I was called by the driver who told me, Superintendent Munene wants to see you. I went, Superintendent Munene told me everything, that can you carry your certificates? Can you carry photocopies of your certificate? Can you take your ID? Can you take blah, 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 blah. And then on such and such a day, uh, the vehicle here, is leaving with you to Nairobi for recruitment. After that, he told me to repeat what he has said to make sure that I have understood. I repeated. Just like that. Imagine a message just coming that you go to the recruitment line without any explanation or whatever, even without him saying, I think your father, he just told me that. I wanted to get more answers, but he was only willing to discuss if I have understood what he has said. And that was the end of the story. So the following day, with the documents, with the vehicle number KTN 902, a Land Rover, a CID vehicle, we left for Nairobi. Upon reaching Nairobi, that is the very same day that my father was completing his gazetted officer's traffic course. So what happened was that my father, the vehicle dropped me in Mudhurwa, went to Kiganjo, and took him back to Nairobi. At Mudhurwa, I went to the late Chief Inspector Charles Mwanja. Those people who are matatu people at railway stage in Nairobi, he later became a superintendent. He retired as a superintendent. Those who know railway terminus for matatu Kibera and Kawangware, you know about Charles Mwanja Soita. You call him Soita. Yeah. His full names are Charles Mwanja Soita. By then he was a constable. I went there and told him I'm going to be recruited. Then he tagged along his brother called Caleb Wafula Mwanja. They came to the house that I was staying, and then found my father there, said, we also want Caleb to be employed. Father said, no, this thing is a bit, you should have told me a long time ago. These things are arranged earlier enough. Now you have come at the 11th hour. But we'll try tomorrow. So the following day, I said one of the days important is the recruitment day. The following day, as a recruit, no. The following day we went, and when we went, father was late coming to pick us. When he was late in picking us up, we left at around 9. That's when we went for recruitment. Went and found a very long line. And my father just said, can you line up with others? I was shocked because I know father used to employ people and there were so many ways of shortcuts. Now we were to line up like anybody else. I went to a corporal, Ole Kibanya. His name is Corporal Ole Kibanya. I went to and I talked to him. This is a son of a superintendent, son of a provincial CID officer talking to a corporal. Said, Corporal, watu wanatafuta kazi wanafanya. He looked at me. There's a way Masais look at you and close one eye. He looked at me, was shocked. Said, saa hii ndio unakuja kutafuta kazi. Then he looked at somebody there and said, wewe ulipanga laini siku gani? Then said, kuanzia jana saa 9 mchana. Then he looked at me and said, huyu ni Kaburu anakuja saa hii. You know Kaburu, for those of you, that is a settler. Those are people who used to be like warlords. Not warlords, but lords. Lords. So he told me, can you go and line up behind the longest line? This line. As I was going, somebody came out and said, are there people with the letters? Now, people with the letters are people like athletes. People with the letters are people like footballers. People with the letters are electricians, mechanics, and so on. They were told to line up somewhere. Then they said, do we have Division 1, Form 4 Division 1, Form 4 Division 2, and Form 6? Now, Division 1 is like an A in KCSE. Division 2 is like a B. And Division 3 is like a C. Division 4 is like a D. So when they were saying they want Division 1 and 2, they want anybody with an A or a B. A or a B. And then Form 6 to line up. First of all, Form 6 line up, and then behind them. That is when I stopped going on that long line and lined up behind the Form 6. I was the last one on the Form 6. Then they said, okay, let me use today's language. What were A, Form 4A and Form 4B, line up behind that tall fellow, kijana mrefu. We lined up. I want to say what happened. Then somebody came, a superintendent of police. When he came, he called the people, said, do we have police officers who want their sons or people to be employed? There were so many of them. They went to a hall. They were very happy. They went to a hall and he told them, he was a GSU fellow, Omar Bashir. If anybody who has worked in the GSU knows Omar Bashir. He told them that, first of all of you, the way you are more than the number I'm required to employ. You are more than the number I'm required to employ. And I cannot employ only relatives or serving police officers. I have to mix with other people. So, because some of you, all of you, if I were to say all of you to send one person, still the number would be more than 3 times. And I know some of you have more than one person. So, kindly understand that this thing, you have to let your boys try their luck. Let your boys try their luck. All recruitment centers, we were boys, but upon reaching Kiganjo, we found girls there. Don't ask me questions there. So when they came back, they came back dejected. I went to Nairobi Technical School, a welder. My eyesight was not good. So we went and lined up. The first, I cannot repeat exactly. Maybe in a future day, I'll repeat exactly what happened at the recruiting center. But as we were lining up, there is that place where you are supposed to show your. Nowadays, they even check the teeth. They check the teeth because if you take a lot of water with minerals, then you have a poor bone structure, and it can only be known through looking at the teeth. But during our days, they did not check the teeth. So when they were checking us, there was a chief inspector, Sifuna. Chief Inspector Sifuna looked at me and told me, kijana, kwa nini umekonda? And I told him that there is a certain part of my hand, the elbow, which had, nowadays you can't see it, but those days it could be seen. A certain Kisi boy had told me that I'll not be taken on account of that bone. The bone, somebody is not taken because there used to be a pin on the belt, and that pin really harmed me. In fact, my hand used to have a lot of blood when marching. So the Kisii boy had told me, you will not be taken because on the account of that hand. So Chief Inspector Sifuna looked at the very same place that boy had talked, and you see, you just freeze and expect to be chased away. He asked me, kijana, kwa nini umekonda? I told him, sisi kwa familia yetu yote watu wamekonda. Suddenly that thing rang a lot of bells to him. Then he looked at me and looked at me. He moved back a bit and talked to me. Kwani wewe ni kijana ya Kwatenge? Yeah, it's stranger than fiction, but it is true. Wewe ni kijana ya Kwatenge? I said, mimi ni kijana ya Kwatenge. But Kwatenge alikuwa kiganjo juzi, mbona hakutuambia ati atatuma kijana yake atafute kazi? Well, my father was there just within, let's say, within a kilometer of where we were standing. But you see, in such a situation, you don't tell a lot of things. I just told him, next time ukikutana naye next time muulize kwa nini hakukuambia. Then I passed. That is one thing that I passed through luck. I don't know whether my father used to talk of that or anything, but the voice, the look, and maybe most probably my father may have been saying the same statement thousands of times. I've never heard him say, but that statement reminded him something, the voice and everything. And as I say, he asked me, when kijana Kwatenge. Then from there we went to a medical checkup. I knew I had a problem with my eyesight. And as I tell you, I was the last Form 6 on the line because they were saying, mtu ya A na B stand behind the tall young man. So when we were going there, there was a senior superintendent, Mohammed, who was the police band director. He came. I understand he hated educated people. So he came and asked people, kuna mtu hapa wa Form 6? Me, I was the last one. Imagine being somewhere, then people say they want to discuss your tribe. And you're the only person from that tribe. Would you say I'm from that tribe? You'd rather say, are you Akuna? So I was saying, Form 6 were meant. Then he told us that they were failing medical test, especially eye test. And I already knew I had an eye problem because people had started commenting that whenever I was, whenever I would try to read names on the shop, I would squeeze my eyes. That is when they say when you are forewarned, you are forearmed. So it reached a time when I went through all the medical. The last medical was the eye test. Instead of waiting for the last person, for the person I'm following to be clear, I just followed him there. And he had a problem. I can tell you that I owe my service to the police service to him. He had a problem. He was really squeezing his eye, and they were telling him, no, if you press your eyes a lot and remove the finger, you see some butterflies. So they were telling him, relax. And there I was cramming. I would say, for example, those of you who have gone for eye test will remember that the first one is usually one letter, then 2, 3, up to, is it 8 or 6? So I crammed that, and when they really wanted to assist him, but he was pressing his hand and he was very nervous. So they just looked at each other and said, that is the match we can do. Next was me. They told me, they started with the first one. Hii ni namba gani? I was very quick. I said, hiyo ambayo ni moja ni D. Okay, I'm giving just an example. I can't even if I'm a photographic mind, but I can't remember everything. He said hiyo iko moja peke yake ni D, hiyo iko mbili ni C na X, hiyo ziko tatu blah 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 up to the end. Said what about the other I said ile iko moja ni D, ile I blah 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 blah. But I was not even looking at that thing. I was looking on the ground. Then you know they have to test you by trying to go back and going up front and whatever. But they looked at me and asked me, "What is your level of education?" I said, "From 6." Then one looked at the other and said, "Wameanguka wote, wacha haka kamoja kapite." Wacha haka kamoja kapite. I went. Then we went for aptitude test. Aptitude test. In short, aptitude test is an IQ test. Aptitude test is an IQ test. This is an exam. I'll tell you. The leading two people during my time, the two leading people in Kenya in aptitude test was Harriet Hondewa. Harriet Hondewa, a Borana from Moyale. Number 2 was Ali Yarombire, a Somali from Garissa. None of them had ever stepped into Form 1. But we were recruited around 5 or 6 Form 6s. 5 or 6 Form 6s. And I was the only one who was among the top 20. I was number 11 countrywide. Hared Hondewa was number 1. Ali Yaromire number 2. There was David Wycliffe Kwatemba. He was a Form 6. He was number around 4 there. There was, there are so many people. Kagose was there. So if you look at Form 6s, Kwatemba was number 8. David Wycliffe Kwatemba was number 8. I was number 11. The other Form 6s, one was around number 120. So on. So what do we call? Aptitude test is an IQ test where a graduate can fail and somebody over standard 7 or nowadays grade 6 can pass aptitude test. It is thinking quickly, and those are things that you have not been taught. Even you in the field can perform better in aptitude test than a teacher in Kiganjo. So after that aptitude test, we spent about 2 to 3 days there. We were waiting for the DCI to come and take our fingerprints. We were waiting for processing and whatever. But that evening we had already been taken. Now, before we were taken, I remember we were called to a place where there is a raised ground where those people, recruiting team, the in charge was acting superintendent Bashir. Bashir was the in charge. He was deputized by Chief Inspector Sifuna from Kiganjo. And the third one was in charge was Inspector Waithaka. Inspector Waithaka, who was a sharpshooter from GSU training school. Now, I want to challenge any police officer who was employed 5 years ago, who can clearly mention all the people, all the police officers who are at his or her recruitment center. Now we move on. When we were being called to the race place. Chief Inspector Sifuna came to where I was in full uniform. He told me, kijana, carry me on my back, carry me on your back from here to the raised dais. I looked at him, walked aside. Then he pretended to be annoyed or surprised. Kijana, umekataa? Siku ile utakuja Kiganjo, utanibeba kutoka kwa gate mpaka kwa dormitory. I was shocked. I walked away. What I did not know was that I was being tipped. I was being told what the outcome was. I was being tipped that I had been taken. Because how can he tell me that siku ile utakuja Kiganjo, utanipata nini? So I want to say here before I continue that my father was around throughout. but he never interfered. He was there in case, maybe if I would have been rejected somewhere, he would have interfered, but I went through. So they started calling people names, First of all, before calling people names, they told us, all of you have passed. Anybody who has gone to aptitude test, you have passed. It's only that we have been given a limited chance. So next time there is a recruitment, please go and line up. You may be taken, because we have tested you and we found you are good, but we have only limited chance. Then they started calling names. What I did not know, and what I later came to know a long time later, is that they started with the person who scored the least in the aptitude test and finished off with the first person. So they continued calling names. Then they took out one paper, said, okay, that is the time when they talked about that. Yeah, that is the time when they talked that. They said, kuna mtu mmoja tu amebaki, but if you are not that person, then know that you are qualified and next time try your luck. Then they said James. Of course, James is a common name. Said Lando. Hey, I can assure you how it's quite hard for two people to be there called James Land. So I shout, so nervous. Even when they were calling the third name Kwatenga, I was already in a cartoonish manner because, okay, let me say in a cartoonish manner for the lack of a better one. And I had people, those who are near me, giving way and telling each other, huyu ako na Mungu wake. Now, very fast, the following day, we went to this place where our names were. We went to this place where we were lining up in two lines. We were told 13 of us on one line, 6 on the other line. We didn't know what the lines were. But then, among the 13, somebody fell down. And when that person fell down, they were shocked. Wewe tunataka kuandika polisi na unashikwa na kifafa or something. Then that Maasai, he was a Maasai, said he's from Kajiado. He walked all the way from Kajiado to Mathare Police Depot. He had stayed for 3 days without eating, without sleeping, and whatever. At night he would go and get the Maasais, fellow Maasais, and he would assist them in guarding, and the only thing he would take at night was roast bananas with milkless tea. He said, you have stayed for those. Unafanya nini kwa laini ya Kiganjo? That is when he was taken to the line for people to go to. He was taken to the line that is for the people who are going to GSU. That's when we knew that the shorter line was for the GSU. Then on the third day, we were given forms. Which we were to take to the. We were given forms which we were to take to various people to sign. For example, your former employer. There were 3 people who were to fill in for you. There were 3 people. One was your employer, if at all you have been employed. 2, the principal of the secondary school you are, or the primary school that you are. And 3, your local chief. Now, I had never been employed, and it was mandatory that 2 people had to fill. So in mine, it was the school head teacher had to fill in. 1, 2, the school head teacher had to fill in, and the chief had to fill in. That is what happened. Then I went to the former school, found there is a Professor Brian Wanyama Singoro. Professor Brian Wanyama Singoro of, what is the name of this? Masinde, what is the name of this university? The university in Kandui. Wanyama Singoro was the head boy when we went there. The headmaster filled in my form very well. And Honorable Nathan Sanya Anaswa. I think one day I should visit him to thank him. He wrote a very good letter, recommendation. The next one was to go and see the chief. Going to see the chief, I was supposed to go and see the chief because I had not been employed. So we left one day to Matete, place called Matete, near Malava. We went to Matete, and then met there the chief, Moses Wamocha. One thing I've never understood my father is that good people, my father detested them, and the bad people, my father admired them. Among the people my father really loved and liked was this Wamocha, Moses Wamocha, the chief for North Cabras. So we went there, me and my cousin. As we entered. Now the office is now for the what do you call it? DCC Matete. But that time it was the chief's office. Went there, reached there, found the chief. No, the chief was not there. People were waiting. So the chief came. He saw my cousin. Martin Narianya. Told him, who is this fellow who resembles your Mjomba? Nadianya said, that is my cousin. Then the chief looked at the people who were waiting, apologized to them, said, this young man is from Garissa. Let me take care of him. Let me take care of him so that after I'm through with him, people agreed. Then we entered. Then the chief, Moses Wamocha, read the forms. You know, it was risky that time going to Kiganjo because it was immediately after the August coup. So there was a move to make sure that they were not recruiting Air Force airmen. It reached a place in my form where the chief was supposed to sign. And when the chief was to sign, it was written, how long have you known the recruit? The chief, Moses Wamocha, wanted to write that he has known me for 5 minutes. Told me I cannot cheat. See, I've just known you for 5 minutes. I can't. Hey. Then something came up to my mind. I said, what if I see the assistant chief? The chief said, it's okay. Then he wrote a letter to assistant chief saying that I'm vetting this recruit. Can you tell us if you know him and whatever? Then we boarded a matatu and arrived at Luandeti. We arrived at Luandeti somewhere in the afternoon. Again, coincidentally, we found people waiting for the assistant chief to come and you see the Luandeti location is down. So Luandeti sub-location today is a division. Sub-location then today is a division. We found Simiyu Wamocha was the chief. Moses Wamocha was the chief. Simiyu was the assistant chief. He's from my clan. We went there, and when he saw my cousin, he said, who is this young man that looks like my brother Lando? Then my cousin told the chief that this is your son. You know, in African language, this is your son. So he also told the people to wait until he's cleared with me because I'm from far. The people agreed. But you know, the chief's place at Matete, Simiyu Macheso. Yeah, Simiyu Macheso. Hana Macheso, huyu jamaa. He's the one who was the assistant chief. He's still alive today. Last time I saw him, he was very healthy. And I told him that when my book comes out, he should get a copy. So Simiyu Macheso was there. But his office, people are not outside there in the waiting room. No, they just allowed me to continue with him as they were listening. So when it reached a time where they were saying, how long have you known him? Simiyu Macheso wrote a letter. That uncle of mine, God bless you when you're still alive. We have to praise you when you are alive and healthy. Because last time I saw you, you are more healthier than me. Simiyu wrote that this young man, when he was born, I knew him. This young man in the village, whenever there is any issue, we want to talk things to the. And then I carried that letter back to Matete, where I took it to the chief. Chief Wamoja wrote that according to he said this young man is a very good, industrious young man in the village. You can see, according to his assistant chief, blah, blah, blah. And then now with the letter from my school, Bungoma High School, or is it called Bungoma Boys? The letter from Bungoma High School and the letter from the chief and assistant chief, I was now ready to go and join the police. Imagine, I've just reached the half. I'm supposed to talk of the day I woke up as a civilian and went to Kiganjo as a police officer. That one I'll record, but later on it will be part 2 of this. Keep on watching. We will talk about it. God bless you.